Alright, new day, it's a new dawn. In some of these instances, I think that your walking backwards was put you out of the range of the where back medium punch would have probably been consistent, but some characters, their jump-ins are like extra nasty and Kami's back medium punch doesn't work very well. I do think that there's a kind of culture with DP anti-air characters that isn't necessarily always accurate. Like if a character has access to an anti-air DP, there's this sort of social expectation or pressure that players put on themselves or other people to anti-air with DP, and they're like, oh, I have to anti-air with DP or anything. Kami has always had... Kami, out of every character in the entire cast, and this has always been true in any game, okay? The worst fucking anti-air DP in terms of value proposition, okay? The anti-air DP, whatever, you're like, that is shallow, doesn't work very well. That one, kind of struggling a little bit, delay it, whatever. The point is that you're plus 23, you dash up, okay? Then you're plus 5, you're not in range of any of your buttons except for roundhouse, etc. The thing about Kami's DP is that you can obviously see when you hit, she bounces off of the opponent and goes backwards. So it does, you know, decent damage or whatever. In Street Fighter V, which is a game that still had a stun mechanic, like the past Street Fighter games, Kami's DP was still had this property, where she bounces backwards off the opponents, and as such, she gets no corner carry off of it, and gets terrible Oki off of it as an anti-air. The difference is, in Street Fighter V, her DP did higher than average stun for a DP anti-air. It did more stun. In this game, there's no real thing that it does better than any other DP anti-air if I switch to any other character. Okay? They just have better DPs. Like, you dash up, you're plus 11, and you're much closer. Okay, you still need Drive Rush to be able to get into whatever throw range, but even that's going to be better than Kami. Let's try, nowhere near getting into a meaty throw, even with Drive Rush. So, however, the difference is, you anti-air with that, with back medium punch, you dash up, you're always in throw range, and at closer ranges, you can kind of get a weird left-right situation going. I don't think you need to, like, pressure yourself into doing a DP anti-air if you find yourself, like, not reacting all the time, etc. And in some circumstances, it's just shittier. Like, if there's a character that their jump-ins are not that threatening, their hurt boxes are not that fucked up, and you can anti-air them pretty consistently with back medium punch at a certain range, I do think it's just better in many ways than anti-airing with DP. Alright, now this is once again a scenario where I would look at the... This is like, the intricacies... The problem is Kami is a very... Because she's no projectile, she has no real, like, long-range game plan, and she's not, like, a super set-play mix type of character. She just has a throw and then hooligan set-play off of certain situations. But because most of her kit is her speed, her dive kick, and her conversions off of something and getting consistent Oki and having convenient specials for that effect, and having really strong lights, because of that, Kami is a character that is very, very, like, detail-oriented in terms of the close range. And that the way that she has to play against every single member of the cast has to be at least slightly different based on what their options are. For instance, in this situation, stand roundhouse is what, like -3 on block, okay? The problem with this, in this particular matchup, is that at this range, Chun's stand jab will still link into her mediums, which is not the case for most of the cast, okay? Most characters wouldn't have a 4-framer that then reaches into an option long enough to reach on counter hit, etc., but Chun-Li does, and You just have to look at, like, the numbers and the options and the exact micro spacings at every single number, -1, -2, -3, etc., for the entire cast to see, like, which pressure tools and which neutral tools make more sense for Cammy versus which are riskier in certain matchups, and in those, the intricacies of that close range, where the differences between a character's 4-framers, 5-framers, and 6-framers and what they can get off of them are very different across the cast. When the opponent is in Burnout, I think Cammy is one of the characters that is especially strong when the opponent's in Burnout, for a multitude of reasons, and, like, your entire toolkit kind of changes. Like, okay, one thing, just do Raw Drill. Raw Drill is very good. Raw Spiral Arrow, exceptional against, you do not have to have even a minor, like even a remotely precise spacing on your drills in order for them to be plus, or at least get you into a range where Cammy is more threatening than the opponent. Other options, I don't think you need to do low forward drive rushes against most of the time against an opponent who's in Burnout. I think you can do low forward light spin knuckle, and then you're +1 on block, or stand fierce into whatever, medium spin knuckle, etc. Or medium or heavy. I think that, like, your whole toolkit changes in a very drastic way when the opponent's in Burnout, and you get to use way more things that you normally don't get to use that are absurdly stupid. You can really skedaddle, skedoodle, neutral, and pressure with Cammy in Burnout, and that'll require, like, breaking down your muscle memory for how you would normally play neutral, and, like, really fucking exploiting that Burnout. Alrighty, now this move, Hazanchu, is so fucking stupid, and I am flabbergasted that Chun-Li got away with this, not receiving any nerfs whatsoever in this version. Not just in terms of an anti-projectile tool, but, like, it's a really obnoxious footsies tool. There's no good way to beat it, other than just trying to perfect parry it. You can't outspace it and then whiff punish it, because it recovers instantly and has no hurt box to whiff punish. The heavy one is -1 on block. You can't, like, fucking neutral jump, punish it, anything. It's fucking nonsense. But yes, this is one of those incredibly frustrating scenarios where your only option is, like, to hit a 4-framer. pretty much. Now, this is another, like, a more abstract kind of movement thing, but I still don't love jumping at that spacing. In general, I mean, if you were to do, like, a sharp dive kick or something, but if you're just going to jump to get, like, a jump short or something, I don't particularly love that movement into that jump in. I wish I could go back and forward in smaller increments, but, like, the value of jump in as a threat that makes it difficult to anti-air is when you move in such a way that it looks like you're encroaching on their personal space. So you have to be walking forwards into their personal space to a degree to which it visually implies that you are, like, bulldogging them. And in this range, it looks more like you're walking into jump range and then jumping, which is much more likely to psychologically key them off that they should look to the sky at that instance. It's like the movement at, like, the precise space, or what action you performed before doing the jump is very important in how likely it is to make your opponent glance in that direction and glance, you know, towards their controllers, towards their anti-air input, etc. And so yeah, I would prefer jumping from after a much longer sequence of walking forwards. There's, like, a brief walk forwards, and then if you walk forwards for, like, a longer period of time, it kind of makes the opponent second guess what you're doing, because most people don't hold forwards for, like, a full second, etc. But just this instance where it's like walk into jump range and then jump is the area where I think it works the least effectively. And then the next scenario, another minor risk-reward alteration after that fact. Chun-Li, especially off of EX anti-air, below 3 bars, okay, dash forwards. She can only get Oki there, like meaningful Oki, meaningful strike Oki, if she drive rushes. So or if she's willing to do a meaty button into drive rush cancel. So there is no threat, there's no credible threat at this point of just walking backwards, because she doesn't have a low that she can meaty you with that she can hit confirm. If she's going to do a low into drive rush, she would have to burn herself out, and she's not at a space in the match where that necessarily makes sense to do. And psychologically, like, most people wouldn't burn themselves out in this instance. It just doesn't happen very often. So you could walk backwards here. There's no threatening meaty that she can hit in that circumstance. She can't quite get into that range for that to be a meaty. See? Just doesn't quite reach in time to stop you from moving backwards, backdashing, whatever, if you wanted to do. It is threatening to press a button in this situation, because if you were to wake up, she could counter hit you with stand jab and then do that sequence. But in terms of movement, she cannot lock you down off of this situation without doing a driver's cancel, burning yourself out, etc. Damage lost here from a suboptimal punish. And into the whatever side switch would have been better. I can't see what your super gauge is at, actually, from your HelloFresh. But I'm assuming that you had full drive gauge, etc. And starting with a stand fierce would have into a side switch, especially if one that involves spinning a level 1 would have kept her drive gauge around like here or lower, etc. while putting her in the corner, which would have been a pretty advantageous situation. Probably would have done this much damage, evened out the match. This is, I think, a difficulty of ranked, specifically because you're generally fighting strangers that you only see for a very short period of time, like 2 minutes or so, and then you'll never see again. And so, in this circumstance, like, a lot of true frame traps, etc. involved in taking advantage of the block stun. But, like, I understand, because when you're playing ranked, you never know who's going to challenge on stuff because they don't know, or they haven't played against enough camis while in burnout to know not to press buttons on those plus frame scenarios. So when you even do get to take advantage of their burnout, a lot of the times you don't know whether or not you should just do true frame traps, or if the opponent's going to respect it and you should steal some turns, go for some throws, go for some heavy punch into heavy knuckle, etc. And that's part of the difficulty. I do think it was unlikely for her to challenge in this instance, just because of the life differential between you and the opponent. But other than that, this is just the difficulties. This is an aspect of difficulty of opening up the opponent that would become less obnoxious or less unpredictable with an opponent that you're more familiar with. I think DI is like a fine thing to do in certain defensive like precise defensive situations, but you have to know the exact precision necessary. And I understand why you did it in this circumstance, because it was a burnt out opponent, etc. Frankly, this is a bizarre situation where he did a non-confirmable move into a punishable special, whatever. But in most circumstances, I don't think that generally speaking, I think that after blocking a standing medium punch is the situation where you are by far and away the least likely for your DI to succeed against Chun-Li, because she has no ability to do a button into a fireball after this, because she has to be a neutral input to do standing medium punch, so she can't have back charge. So yeah. She was either going to press a button, which most likely statistically she's probably going to press like stand jab into like back medium punch or stand jab low forward, etc. DI probably would have worked against this player in that circumstances. With the addition of the burnout and the fact that he didn't have any super gauge, I think that it's probably reasonable, but under other circumstances, DI after standing medium punch, probably unnecessary. And again, when also, so far, this guy has shown a frequent propensity to just do buttons into unsafe specials on block. So, I think in this particular circumstance, you can just wait and block, and then if he does do a walk forwards, just throw tech, because I doubt that he would leave that much of a gap. So far, at least, he has not shown a propensity to leave that much of a gap, then walk all the way forwards, and then shimmy you. I find it incredibly unlikely that this player would do that to you, so I think that you can just wait, and if he does just walk for a mile and then throw you, just tech. This is, again, that thing I was talking about with pressing buttons too quickly. So, you know, you hit the jump in button, it was blocked, and then you walk backward, but then you pressed your next button too quickly, and the opponent's mashing or either they immediately mashed, or they did like a delay button mash, whatever, and it still caught you. I think that in these instances where you're putting like a walk back into a button, you still need a greater delay before you actually hit your button. A slightly greater delay. Alright, this is another quick instance. Meaty, crouch fierce, excellent. Now you go for this. I don't know if this was intentional, but in general I would say just confirming into the regular target combo into the full corner combo would be better. Significantly more optimal. But anyways, the other point is the jump out on the throw attempt. Now this is a situation where you can just get an ironclad muscle memory into this instance. If the opponent's going to jump out of your throws in the corner, just brain dead, back heavy kick, side switch. Do it. It's super brain dead. Done. This is another instance where I've noticed that like your personal tendencies come out in watching several of your matches. A lot of the time, especially in the corner, you do like a quick sequence like crouch short, crouch jab, and then you do dive kick. And I do think that is one of those scenarios where I think a lot of people probably do that, and I think the opponents, you know, some percentage of players are going to be attuned to looking for or pumping an anti-air input right in that blocking scenario. So yeah, that is a situation where it seems predictable, because there's no possible, I don't see any possible situation where he would have been ready for this anti-air, except for the fact that your sequence of buttons here psychologically tipped him off that he should pump for an anti-air. I mean, he's not playing in Modern, so he definitely intentionally did that immediately. This is another perfect instance for which doing crouch medium punch into light knuckle instead would have made more sense. For one of those scramble situations, you could confirm it into level 3, especially if you have level 3, and you're looking for an opportunity to get it because of recovering drive gauge or hitting the opponent's drive gauge or evening out the life leads, whatever, clearly in this instance. So crouching medium punch into light knuckle and then just confirm that into level 3, and it wouldn't have burnt you out here. Now, my overall impressions from this match so far. 1, these are in no particular order, so don't care about the numbering. But 1, you do a lot of this at ranges where you won't be able to get close enough for a throw. And, you know, I understand I'm not like necessarily being critical of that or anything, but there's a lot of instances where you do low forward for which you could have done crouch strong instead. And if you do crouch strong, you can go into back medium punch for a true block string, a gapless drive rush conversion, and that will not only burn more of the opponent's drive gauge on block, but most importantly, it will always put you +3 in throw range no matter how far away you are. A much better scenario. So using crouch strong, drive rush into back strong, very, very, very good and significantly better in many ways than low forward drive rush jab. Alright, next thing that I noticed. This opponent jumps out of the corner without getting anti-aired like 5 times in this set. So that's like the significant area. The areas where you're losing is getting thrown or like guessing wrong in the corner, and then the areas where you're losing in neutral is when he just jumps over, and that's mostly consistent throughout this match. Alright, the next thing is that still, your rate of throwing the opponent could be a lot higher. Your rate of doing like a knockdown and then doing a meaty throw or a meaty shimmy could be higher. Your rate of doing like a jump in on block and then throwing could be higher. You just have not thrown hardly at all in scenarios where you have the opportunity to do so, and many scenarios are not mixes yet under these circumstances. And then other than that, he is consistently tagging you out of dive kicks, not intentionally, not even on reaction, a lot of them, because you are dive kicking at positions that are, after certain actions, very consistently. So like you do like something on block, then you do jab into dive kick, etc. And he just keeps mashing after that, and it keeps hitting you. Not just for that action, but, you know, stuff like that. This is a scenario where a manually timed meaty setup would be the best thing to do. I believe that you did do it successfully here, but yeah, personally speaking, if I were to practice like any particular execution-based thing, I would practice that. So I would practice getting a meaty standing medium punch after a forward throw. It can be up to +9. So I'd practice that, and then confirm it into whatever, right? On hit. Now, most of the time you're not going to be so precise that you get it all the way up to +9, but it's not too difficult to get it at least +7. So just hold walking forwards. Don't walk and then stop. Just keep holding the forward input, and then press medium punch at a certain time, and then practice this a lot because you're going to get slightly different timings because it is manual. And then see what those look like. See how you can recognize them. If you are below 7 frames, at this point you will always be in range for stand light kick. If you are at 7 frames or higher, you will always be in range for crouch strong. And then it'll look a bit visually different if you're like +8 or +9. Like that. So then, if you practice this enough, you can get it pretty consistent that you at least get it meaty enough that you can get a crouch strong. And then sometimes you can recognize that you've actually got it +8 or more, and you can go for a stand fierce. But most of the time, you're going to be getting that crouch strong consistently. There's like a 3-frame window here where it works out. One thing I can say with confidence about this matchup is that doing standing heavy kick when the opponent has enough, when Chun has enough drive gauge to confidently just do low forward drive rush is probably, in most circumstances, not ideal. I would not do stand heavy kick just in regular footsies. Under those circumstances when she has full drive gauge. This is just a very difficult position. Alright, Chun's low forward drive rush stand jab, or crouch jab would actually be better. Here's the thing. If you notice that a Chun-Li is doing that, okay, drive rush stand jab, the thing about that is that that's only +1, so she can't actually do that into a throw as a true block string, or as a frame trap, rather. So, if she is just doing this into throw, you can just mash out. That being said, crouch jab is the better option that she has. She could also do low short, which is also a 4-framer for Chun. She's, I think, the only character that has a 4-frame crouch short. But in any case, part of the point of that is that it is just a very difficult setup. You're -2, you're in throw range, she can do standing medium punch, which will easily convert into a full combo, and it's plus on block as well. It's just one of the most difficult scenarios, and she can shimmy you, or she can do instant air legs, etc. So there's not like a good, and she does huge damage if she blocks your DP by shimmying you, etc. So this is just one of the most difficult like, character button drive rush into button mix-ups in the game. That being said, you just have to sort of identify, especially on these, like, randos on ranked, you have to identify which options they're unlikely to go for unless prompted to. And I do think that you could hold up in a great number of situations to avoid getting hit, because I don't think this... Or do a delay tech, which will avoid the meaty and the throw, because I don't think this Chun-Li has introduced a shimmy in that circumstance, or any real throw mix-up circumstance so far. But against a player that represents all three options, strike, throw, or shimmy, it's just a very difficult scenario. There's not a great option against it. I think in terms of your noticeable, like, behavioral changes off of certain things in a match happening, like, you have a tendency in manic situations and situations that are becoming more stressful, becoming more rapid fire, etc. There's a certain... You become more buttonsy in a lot of interactions, and another thing that I noticed is you have a much greater tendency to just do a bunch of, like, just jump forward dive kicks. And I think that in scenarios where I think a lot of these situations where you're just doing jump forward dive kicks, like your blood's flowing and you're feeling the pressure, whatever, and it's one of the things that you go to. And I think that if you, like, curb that in such a way where you just turn all of those into just regular jump light kicks, I think that that would work out better long term. I think that the tendency to do spontaneous instant air dive kicks is more dangerous than just if you defaulted to spontaneous jump forward light kicks. I love all this so far, this round start, and this is a great introduction, but this is another example of just, like, one of the inherent difficulties of Chun-Li, where it's like, if you're -1, it's not a good time to hit a 4-framer, because Chun's 4-framer will link in a counter hit into a medium, and that sucks. But also, it's not worth it to not hit a button, because if you walk backwards or do anything, she can get low forward, and that'll hit you if you walk backwards, etc. Or if you block, even on block, if she does low forward drive rush, she'll lock you down into a really damaging mix-up. So, a really insidious strike throw shimmy mix. So this is just one of those situations where, I mean, I just did, like, a random tier list as far as I know for the cast, and I did put Chun in, like, I had, like, Ken and Rashid as top 2, and then I had, like, Aki, and then Chun-Li, and I think JP in, like, the next 3, in no particular order. And I do generally feel confident in that current ranking of top 5. But yes, Chun-Li, difficult buttons, very obnoxious button actions. The thing is, her standing light punch, which is like her fucking bullshit 4-framer, right? That links into all these mediums. Her standing light punch is one of the most minus on block lights in the game. It is -3. So even if she does it into a 7-frame medium, there's still like an 8-frame or a 9-frame, 10-frame gap there. But the problem is her stand jab is so hard to react to by itself, it's just, like, almost impossible to take advantage of that. I do think if you can semi-react to it... Here, let me just randomly try it for now. Let me just try doing... Right. Let me create a scenario where we're, like, here. And then I will have Chun do this... Chun do that, and then Chun do that. And then I will have these play automatically. Even then, I tried to react with crouch strong to interrupt the gap between them. It's just incredibly hard. And the other problem is, even if you do something shallower, like a jab to react to it, that'll lose to the back strong. It'll beat the low forward, but it'll lose to the back strong. So, Maybe you can do a 5-framer. Stand jab works better than crouch jab for Cammy in this particular instance to beat these. But it's hard to, if you're already crouch blocking, it's hard to react and stand as opposed to just hit a button. So, yeah, like I said, there's just not a great option to do here unless you're very confident that you know exactly when the stand jab's coming out. The best thing that you can do is try to react and do a crouch jab into spiral arrow. And even then, if you hit it too quickly, you'll still get punished. Instead, probably easier in every capacity, easier and safer to just try to react after a stand jab from Chun to just get the timing for, because both of the options she's going to do afterwards are 7 frames. Try to get a perfect parry timing. I think that's like the best solution possible in general for this situation. Alright, I hate giving advice against my boy, but here we go. Okay, standing light kick into whatever, obviously. We have that by itself has a gap, so anytime Zangief just walks up in a standing light kick, you should train yourself to have the instinct to look for the drive rush cancel. If they do a drive rush, then... Oh, wait, shit, I have it. That's what is happening. Now, there's 2 options you can do. If you see that he's going for it, I think it's mostly reasonable and acceptable to just do a drive reversal. I think out of every character that does things that does that, I think that the likelihood of a Zangief doing a drive rush cancel from especially any of his buttons, especially standing light kick, and then waiting and trying to like block your fucking drive reversal is incredibly unlikely and also quite difficult for him. So I generally think in most circumstances you can just wait for it, see the thing, and then just see the green and then just drive reversal. I think that'll work 9.5 times out of 10. The other ones, obviously to blow up the fake. So always buffer this when he does standing light kick. His other options, if he's doing just raw standing light kick into, and he doesn't go into crouch strong, which is a frame trap and will mix you if you don't stop him from doing it. If you don't stop him from doing this stuff with gaps, he could do stand light kick into SPD, which you don't want him to do. So you want to blow up those fake gaps with drive reversal and with EXDP or with level 1, depending on, you know. It's not a crazy thing to ask. I mean, characters that don't have EXDPs will, you know, buffer their level 1s whenever an opponent does a drive rush that is known to have gaps in it. But in any case, so his other options, if he doesn't want to have gaps, he would have to go drive rush into his 4-framer because he doesn't have any other option. So he would have to do that. Now the thing about that is that is +1 on block. So if the Zangief were to do standing light kick drive rush into low short to keep it gapless, he's only +1, which is not plus enough for him to do an SPD. Okay, so in this instance, he also doesn't have a frame trap off of this. He literally cannot frame trap you here. Well, okay, that's not true. He can, but it is incredibly awkward and difficult for him to do so, because it will require him to manually delay his next light button press so that he gets another crouch short afterwards, but not as a rapid cancel. If he hits it even a frame too early, it won't count as a rapid cancel, and if he hits it a frame too late, he's not plus anymore, and he'll trade with your crouch jab. So it is incredibly difficult for him to even do a frame trap off of this. In this instance, if he does stand light kick into crouch short, I think that you can mash your 4-framer, again, 9 times out of 10. Now, his next option is if he does that, and then he true block strings into that, okay? Now that is, again, +1, but he will be outside the range of your 4-framer, so his SPD is more likely to work here. Or he could do that, which is +2 for him. However, it has more pushback, and he's more likely to have pushed you out of the range of his SPD. Yeah. So if he's far away like that, his SPD won't even reach after that point. So he's more likely to do that in a crouch jab because it has less pushback, but it is also only +1. However, the spacing is better for him to be slightly farther away like that. So, in this scenario, and all the other scenarios that he can do off of stand, light kick, drive rush are fucking shit and you can blow them up, right? But if you were to do that, the only other instance, and Zangief would have to be an incredibly high-level Zangief to even attempt doing this, but he could theoretically also do this, in which case he would armor through your DP, and this would only work on Cammy, because, well, Cammy and a small handful of the other characters, because her DP on block or on armor only hits once, which means the one hit of armor from Zangief Stand Fierce would blow up this. That being said, I have never seen that happen in a real match. It's just a weird piece of abstract niche tech from fucking freaks like me that find everything. So anyways, the more important point is that if he does this, he has a couple of options. He's +1 in an SPD range where he's more likely to beat your 4-framer if you swing it out. However, at this point, he's only +1, quite far away from you. At this point, you can just backdash. And you can, again, backdash this, I would say 7 times out of 10. And it is quite difficult. He has to do very specific things to even chase your backdash here. So that is the technical breakdown of Zangief's stand light kick by its just raw stand light kick into drive rush on block. I do not think it's a generally strong technique for him. Unless the opponent has no DP and he can just do the crouch strong all the time, I do not think... I think that the 3 general options that he has off of it are pretty weak all around if you know how to beat them. Alright, let's keep going. Knee, that was probably plus, but whatever. Again, I think these are instances where you do like a couple lights and then forward jump in a way that is necessary in certain instances, but I think that forward jump in that situation is more like a counter. I don't disagree with you doing it initially just to test him, just to test whether or not he'll be looking to anti-air that, but after this point I would not do that with great frequency if I were you in this position and if my brain worked. Let's see, what was that? Right. Into that, that's just a guess. Yep. I think in those awkward instances where I think it's better to just wait and test and see whether or not the Zangief can actually input and land the meaty SPD, because some of the SPDs are more awkward to land in some of his Oki situations. Some of them require like a small walk forward into the SPD, and a lot of like just random Zangief players might not have that. It's a lot easier to just land meaty headbutt than it is to execute meaty SPD in a lot of these circumstances that require weird movements or weird buffered inputs from drive rushes. So in that instance, also he gets worse Oki from SPD, so I would let him prove that he can land an SPD in that instance before holding up.
That's called Burnout Billy. I know what he means.
Currently, like, just of a vague sense, I don't have a current opinion. I'll get back to you later on what buttons and what behaviors and footsies work best against Zangief.
That's called Burnout Billy. I know what he means.
In this circumstance, it's rough because at this range, when he has this large drive gauge lead, he could whiff punish your low forward with standing medium punch. He could whiff punish it with stand light kick, drive rush, and put you in the corner from that. So that's rough. That's difficult. He has some options against your dive kick. Dive kick is kind of weird for Zangief. Anyways. Were you... Let me see. Were you holding backwards in that instance?
Billy. I know what he means.
No, you're just crouch blocking. Okay, understandable. That makes sense. That's another, you know, fake one, but that drive rush is like +5 on block, so he technically could threaten you there. What did you do into drive rush here? It looked like you did like a light or something. No, you did crouch strong into drive rush. Now again, crouch strong, drive rush should go into back medium punch. Just the overwhelming majority of the time on block. And also, in this instance, one, I don't think burning yourself out against Zangief is that bad most of the time. If you're in like mid-screen and neutral, his forward heavy kick gets more annoying, especially in this season. In close range, his forward medium kick, his knee, gets a lot more oppressive, and his DI gets annoying. But other than that, I don't actually think that burning yourself out against him is that bad, but you have to sort of measure it on the margins. Let's see. Doing this pressure. Play strings. Delicious. Now, in these circumstances, actually that's a good question. I just thought to myself, I don't know whether or not Raw Spiral Arrow will beat his standing heavy punch armor. It will. Okay. Because I was gonna say that it's pretty easy, especially if the opponent's in the corner, to skip neutral with quick dive kicks or quick light spiral arrows if they're in burnout. That was nice. I would prefer the proper conversion into the heavy spiral arrow, or because you have full meter here, into a drive rush conversion or something. But at the very least, even if you're not going to win this round, which it might be difficult to do so, you know, splurging all your meter on combos that you get, just to even up the life lead, and more importantly to build super for the next round in case you lose this round, if that's likely, is a good thing to shoot for in a perfect world. Yeah, I like that. Yep, this whole thing, I like this. I do think that it's hard to say, because like, you don't necessarily want to be too close to Zangief in case the Zangief player starts like mashing out random SPDs on defense, but at the same time, ideally we would like to get standing medium punch punish counter as our shimmy tool. That, I think, was probably in range to convert it. That standing medium punch counter hit. Hang on, let me see it. Yeah, that was definitely in range. That's +8 on hit. I'm pretty sure you could have gotten stand fierce, but if not, you definitely could have gotten low forward. And I think you definitely could have killed off of this. Yikes. Wait, what did he whiff jab and then SPD? Actually, that was pretty slick. I think that was a buffered SPD. But anyways, yeah. The conversion from prior would have been nice. It's hard to just say what the right choice is when a Zangief just drive rushes right at you. I'll get back to you on that. I'm not entirely sure myself what makes the most sense to do there.
Why is everything this character does plus in front of my fucking face?
Yeah, that fucking knee. I mean, he's getting it really, like, In this particular instance, I actually don't know off the top of my head if knee puts you into proximity block or not. Well, first of all, we should test... Alright, what's the farthest range we can punish it? Max range? Yeah, we can punish his sweep at max range. With standing heavy kick. Okay, so that's guaranteed. If we're a bit closer... Whatever. And then if we're closer than that... Sweep, probably. Okay, but standing heavy kick would be the most consistent thing. So, Cammy actually does have a very consistent punish on that. It's not like the most damaging punish in the world, but... So, in those instances where you've... Both the times... These instances where you've been locked down by the knee at the range where it was plus on block, it's when you were crouch blocking and not outspacing it. I think in these instances, backdash on the knee now, usually... Let me think. If Zangief is like +6 and he does forward medium kick and you backdash, I think he's like fucking like -6. Let me test that really quickly. So if he does... Okay, now -4. Where he's doing it, you probably couldn't get a punish if you backdashed on them, so, you know. It's rough. I mean, he's a lot better now. He's pretty strong.
This character does plus in front of my fucking face? I don't understand. When is it my fucking turn?
Now, I would say, general thing, almost every Zangief player is probably going to do this, so, block reversal, crouch short, block reversal, do nothing, block reversal, stand medium punch. Practice with punishing it with sweep. It was a nice attempt. Again, a very, very samey kind of interactions. You know, lights in close range, and then holding up forward. I think that was probably supposed to be a dive kick that got messed up. The jump short probably would have worked because I do think you can abuse that in very close range better on Zangief since none of his anti-airs will reach above or behind his head. Oops. It's unfortunate. Yeah, and then that's a gamble. It's a guess after that. Yeah, the anti-airs... I don't think you can consistently anti-air Zangief with back strong with Cammy. I do think you probably have to get the DPs just based on his variety of anti-air of jump-in options. I do think, okay, here's personally speaking, right? A lot of other characters, right? This is the important thing to understand about Zangief, right? Is that a lot of other characters, if you just like, oh, moving about like, oh, footsies, oh, walk all the way up for a forward throw. That's incredibly dangerous against most of the cast because if they just do any fucking button, they're always going to do it into drive rush, and then they get a full combo, right? However, Zangief is unique. He's not, like, entirely unique. There's some characters that work like this, but in this particular instance, the only thing that he does that would work like that in a defense that he's likely to do is crouch strong. And you don't see Zangief players throwing out crouch strong unless they're looking for very specific things. Okay? The thing is, his actions he's generally going to take in neutral. That, as a drive rush confirm, and then you just back roll off that, that's not too bad. If you just walk straight into that, that's not too bad. The other thing is that he can stop drive rushes, okay, because he has standing medium punch. However, the important thing to understand is that this only works on counter hit, which means if you just walk at him, it doesn't, it won't go into the full combo. So, because of that, I think forward dashing and forward walking is more beneficial against Zangief, and it feels very uncomfortable because he does have threatening. But the other thing about that is that, like, unlike other characters that can, like, poke out and do their four-framers while you walk into them or whatever, Zangief, if you're walking forward and he checks you with, like, crouch short, crouch jab or something, he's not going to convert that unless he spends meter, and he's going to convert it in the shittiest way known to man. Okay? So he's going to get weak, low-damage conversions that cost him a huge amount of drive gauge, okay, just to get anything for checking your basic forward movement. So long as you're not giving him that counter hit that he needs for standing medium punch to go into the rest of the target combo, I don't think, and unless the Zangief player is going fucking apeshit with just throwing out random SPDs in the hope that you will walk into them on if he does that when you're close range on your offense, I think that against Zangief, more than almost any other character in the cast, you can feel more comfortable doing like jab, jab, and then walk up and throw him. The relative threat that you face, unless his instinct is to do defensive SPDs, the relative risk that you face is very low compared to the rest of the cast, and if he does start doing defensive SPDs, then you can easily exploit those with, the, like, you know, the jumps that you've been doing, or just, like, backdash, whatever, like, jab, jab, backdash, etc. So, yeah, in general, pressuring him, this is, like, one of the only characters who I would recommend, yes, just walk him down, walk into his face, walk jab, walk throw, whatever. Dash up, whatever. Also, you can throw out sweeps against him. In general, he has really shitty sweep punishes a lot of the time. Yeah, dive kick works pretty well. Like, really quick dive kick right on his shins works pretty well against Zangief. His anti-airs, even his EX, are quite slow. It's especially fortunate if he tries the EX and it still fails, because then he's down drive gauge as well. And if your dive kicks are consistently hitting him at shin level, that will also blow up the armor on his standing heavy punch if he tries that, because, again, so long as the hitbox appears low enough, his heavy punch can't armor it. Again, this is another instance where, like, just because of his threat, I don't like the heavy kick, because this is just an instance where if he's +3 off of blocking your standing heavy kick in this range, in SPD range, and in, like, stand light kick range, or down forward medium punch range, he actually is kind of a threat. +3 is good for Zangief, so... And again, it is just unfortunate the rate of not anti-airing. There's a lot of, like, not just the damage of anti-airing and the risk that you face by letting the opponent getting in or side switching, getting out of the corner, etc. Like the opportunity cost of being able to get the damage and then do more Oki that continues to oppress the opponent, but also, like, the sequence going bad and, like, losing drive gauge, and all this is happening because of the missed anti-air. It's just, like, you know, rough. Yeah, the drive rush sweep is a different story. You can't punish that shit. There was no reason for him to spend that EX there. But, you know, didn't matter. Oh, another thing, if you do, like I said, walk into a standing medium punch or dash into it, and he tries to do the target combo, this is another important thing. So let's just say he does, whatever. Now, let's just say he just does 2. If you're outside the range of SPD, or if you're like in a questionable range for SPD, you can try to perfect parry it. But one thing, if you're quite confident he's going to do it, if you block the first one, DI is guaranteed to beat the second one. Anyways, I feel like there's a number of like clunky scenarios unfolding. That one's fine. His likelihood of like checking it when he has full drive gauge, it's a little dangerous because you don't know if he'll just do stand, light kick, drive rush, etc. There are options that he has at this range. Ideally, when he's at full drive gauge, I think you'd probably want to like play around his footsies, try to whiff punish a stand medium punch, or try to sneak in a low short on block. I think a couple of times you've slightly misjudged the spacing and like whiffed your low forwards a handful of times so far against his legs. So yeah, so in general, when he has full meter, I like dive kick against his shins, etc. What did he do there? I actually wasn't paying attention again.
Can I whiff punish anything? Fucking
Okay, light kick into drive rush. We already talked about that earlier. Right, there's nothing you can do after that. There's literally nothing you can do after that. If you're on a real fucking cracked out motherfucker, like I was watching Kakeru, consistently perfect parrying that every time it was used in any random situation in neutral, which is absurd to me. But yes, if you're like a bad bitch motherfucker, you can try reactively perfect parrying it. Like, practice the Oki scenario and then just practice trying to perfect parry it. But other than that, if you just block it, let it go. There's nothing you can do. Yeah, I think in this instance... Okay, well, again, in this instance, the only thing you could have hoped for would be, like, to level 1 or something. Yeah, not much you could do there, except for pump a level 1. But the problem is, if you're pumping a level 1, you can't beat his, you won't block his low. I really personally feel like in your tendency, like you blocked one low short there and then immediately for pressing buttons, probably you were already pressing buttons before you even saw it was a low short that you blocked, etc. That you did stand, that if you blocked that, you did -3 into pressing buttons there. Jab, jab, press buttons there. Your counter hit, the frequency of your counter hit when blocking stuff is pretty high, and I generally think that in almost every scenario where your instinct is to press a light button, if you just replace that instinct with tap perfect parry, like your success rate in these specific scenarios would go up like 40%. Again, we have a number of the same scenarios unfolding. So standing heavy kick at like a too close to spacing, whatever, it's not going to be better than your other options in that instance. And then pressing buttons, I don't think it leaves her in a good position on hit or on block, frankly. Nice dive kick into this scenario, and then you wait, or you walk backwards, crouch strong. Now, again, in my opinion, this is related to the next situation that's going to unfold, where you do something, you walk backwards, and then you hit a button too quickly. And, like, the rate at which you're doing it, you do the thing on block, and then you move backwards. And, like, the speed at which you're doing your next button is basically the speed at which a normal person reacts to the fact that nothing is happening and then hits a button. So, again, you slightly delay these walk back buttons, slightly slower than the way you've been doing them, and they will work out more consistently. This is not like a gameplay, like decision making type thing, but this is another thing. It's like I think like 2 scenarios happened that irritated you, and you were like, you know, talking or whatever, and like complaining about something. But the point is that, like, in your distraction, this is an instance that I think is useful to recognize your own habits, where like you're not like you're slightly distracted, you're mentally not in the match as much, and then your instinctive decision is again to do like an instant air dive kick at a range where it was never going to reach, and this is what killed you in this instance. So again, the scenario. So this is like, this indicates to me that like this is like you enjoy, like you genuinely enjoy like the input of doing an instant air dive kick, and because of that, it's like a pleasure habit that you do when you're like just like your fingers are kind of doing whatever, and that's why they come out in some of these instances of like habit or reflex or whatever, where you're not as like focused in the match in terms of the decision making. So that I do think that like you have a habitual instinct in moments of emotional distraction or lack of focus or something, or like high energy, where like your hands just love doing instant air dive kick. Just as a reference, I do like this round from this other fucking guy, right? This particular round where it's like, you know, I don't know about this random overhead. I don't know how much it whiff, like how whiff punishable it is when it just whiffs like that. But then in this circumstance, takes his turn, then just walks backwards. He doesn't sit there, or he doesn't dive kick. He like walks back in a way that was probably outside of low forward range. Checks it, very simple conversion. Block, that's +1 on block, and then he just backs off again in case of a DP or a super or something that you might have thrown out that would have regained your drive gauge, etc. This gets a little bit of a button. Nice timing, nice spacing, etc. Back off, simple anti-air, fucks that up, but then waits, doesn't tech. I can't blame him, because again, your frequency of throwing versus how many times you neutral jump in those situations, you neutral jump way more often than you throw.
I know what you mean. Caring is caring.
And this, abuse the throws, control the situation, just force the situations, force the throws to happen, force activity. I like that, like you really have to bully your way into the scenarios that you want to unfold. You can't, like, everyone has like an instinct of trying to do something that they would like to occur, like there's like a bit of a pleasure instinct of like, people have a tendency to do neutral jumps more because in that moment of in that like heatful moment, they really feel like, man, it'd be fucking great, I would love to get a neutral jump punish on a throw tech here, and like it doesn't really work out that way, or I would like to do this, and then they execute it, and then, you know, it doesn't reward because they're not implementing the other options as much, that they don't have as much of like an emotional incentive to do. But anyways, I like this, like just forcing the issue from this guy. Alright, did that, throw, walk forwards, throw loop. Forward jump, because you just took 2 throws in a row. I think this is a great scenario for him to just forward jump to skip neutral again. I think that's like a totally like logical situation where you would be distracted by the 2 previous interactions that happened in rapid succession, and then does some goofy shit, whatever, but and then throw again. So like that, I think, is like totally reasonable, basic, Cammy play and decision making or whatever, minus barring a few weird idiosyncrasies. We come into this next round, you get an early hit,
Bro, how did you get Latvia?
start pressuring him in the corner, you go for this, you don't convert off of it, and so I think then you get your next hit, you're going to convert suboptimal. Well, no, that one is good, that one's excellent, and then you get this, and then you convert into light kick. You could have just gone straight into heavy punch, into the target combo, you wouldn't have had to spend any drive gauge on that, and then you could have spent your drive gauge on like the next neutral skip in case he avoided the next mix, which he will. So you block that, and then this is the issue where, other than the missed optimizations and stuff, or the missed confirms off of the Okis that you did go for, this is my biggest like complaint about this sequence, is like your walk back then walk in, or whatever, into the range where you could get hit again, and like, I don't think there's a reason to walk back into this range. I think you stay out here, after you walk back, you stay out here, and then when you have the opportunity to do so, you either harass from back here, or you like do like little checks with like standing light kick or like standing medium kick or whatever. Maybe go for a dive kick, but I do not think, especially when you're still not that long after the last interaction and the opponent is still kind of likely to be the only thing they're going to be looking for is going to be doing low forward drive rush, and that's exactly what he did. And so, like, he's either going to be waiting to try to react to a DI, react to a jump in, or if he's going to be doing anything, hitting actively, it's going to be looking for low forward drive rush. So I don't agree with like walking back then into their strike range. I think that you want to stay out there until you have enough meter that you can skip that portion of the neutral and get back in. And then we come into this round, and there's like another like. All right, great low forward into drive rush, great like timing and whatever, but then like a really weird conversion. I like the throw, and then like another weird set play that like kind of goes into something, but not really. And like these weird inconsistencies on the same scenarios speaks that like I think like you could actually do yourself very simple favors by just like putting like a half an hour into training mode just to do like these exact things, to like hammer into your skull like the muscle memory for these scenarios, because I think that would actually help you like not just get the conversions, but also you would simplify your reactions, because if you just put them into muscle memory so that your hands and your eyes just know exactly what to default to in all these scenarios where you get these hits, then you'll spend less mental energy trying to like construct these weird combos on the fly, and you'll just do the optimal combo automatically and have more mental energy left for the rest of the match. And I do think that's an area where you can, like, that's one of the areas where you can cut out your own necessary brain power connected to it. You can really, if you just put in the time, just make most of your combos, Oki scenarios, and like confirms off of those things just super brain dead, super automatic. Your hands just do them by themselves, just getting the muscle memory for the sequences. So I do think that would be a benefit both in terms of optimization and your overall like easing up the psychological burden of coming up with a combo on whatever hit that you did get. And it would remove the burden, like the psychological burden that would come when you land a hit but then get a shitty combo afterwards, or miss the combo conversion entirely, which is annoying and distracting. If it happens to you, you'll be like, fuck, God, I had an opportunity and I missed it, and that will also cause a psychological burden that will distract you and at least slightly negatively affect your reaction speed and your gameplay for like a moment or so. This is one thing that I mildly dislike about your usage of standing heavy kick, is that like it inevitably leaves you closer to the opponent because of the very little pushback on block, and you tend to use it more when the opponent is closer to the corner or in the corner, which, because probably in mid-screen you You don't want it to whiff if you're using it from far away, etc. But the ending result is that there's so many instances where, in theory, right, I think that in mid-screen it doesn't matter as much. No, you know, you can play from long range, you can get it up and close, but the closer you get to the corner, I think that you really want to... The closer you are to cornering the opponent is in the corner, I think you want your neutral to be farther away from the opponent. I think you want your neutral to be less up-close footsies based when you're closer to the opponent and more skipping neutral based, okay? So, because of this, when you have this tendency to, like, get up too close to the opponent in the ways that you're playing your neutral and moving and hitting buttons and stuff, the opponents are able to jump out of the corner a lot of times. And that's not even counting, like, the opponents, like, accidentally walking into the opponent doing, like, a medium button into drive rush and getting some sort of side switch combo or something, right? So, like, that's why the closer we are, the more the opponent's in the corner, we want to stay farther away and then rely on neutral skipping tools, drive rush, dive kick, and whiff punishes, and tail end low forward drive rush to skip neutral, right? And we don't want to as much get up in their grill. Personally, I think that I already recorded a couple days ago a thing talking about standing light punch neutral, but I think standing light punch neutral makes a lot more sense, especially it's character specific, but I think it makes more sense when the opponent is closer to being cornered, because, like, ideally the best neutral we want in the corner is just harassment, quick dive kicks, jump ins, just flat jump ins, and the psychology of jumping kind of changes when the opponent's in the corner, like, where I think it's actually, they're less likely to be looking for the jump in, even if you do it from normal jump in range. I don't think the same logic applies where you would want to, like, walk and then jump at, like, this range in mid-screen. I think it's totally fine to just jump, like, right here. Worst that happens, you get anti-air. Most characters' anti-airs won't side switch you and put you in the corner, so I generally think that's totally fine in a skipping neutral sense. Heavy kick, if it, like, if you're trying to whiff punish something, I agree with it as a whiff punish, but just as a poke, I think it can put you too close to the opponent a lot of the times at -3. It can give them a way, especially if they have high drive gauge. A lot of them can just do low forward into, or some of them can just do low forward, or at least some 7-framer into drive rush afterwards, which I think is rough, and even if they don't, they can jump at a range that can make it awkward. So yeah, the ideal neutral when you have the opponent cornered is neutral skip with low forward drive rush, drive rush low short, dive kicks on their shins, etc. Jumps from here. The occasional DI, you do have to do it, not because it needs to work, but just because the opponent has to have some level of their psychology dedicated to looking for it, which will fuck with their ability to anti-air. And then, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's how it works out. But also, if we have to do another button, then I would say stand jab neutral makes sense to do in the circumstances. I think you can whiff stand jab here, and it's not too bad. I think stand short also makes sense to pester the opponent with and just be obnoxious. But yeah, stand jab neutral, partly because it hits really high up in the air, so it's more likely to catch jump startup. And even if it whiffs and the opponent happens to be jumping over it, you should have plenty of time to either jump back air throw or walk under and cross-cut DP them. And if you cross-cut DP with the EX, then you'll side-switch them again, etc. This whole round has, like, a number of, like, consistent issues. You do win this round. You win a lot of these rounds, but, like, these guys make stupid mistakes, etc. But there's a bit of, like, an uncertainty about what to do in neutral. There's the jab, light into quick dive kick immediately. and that could get blown up by a number of buttons the opponent might press, or a jump back, or a backdash, or just them expecting it and pumping an anti-air, etc. And then there's a bit of uncertainty sometimes. I think that's the only one you did this round, but a bit of uncertainty surrounding what to do in this range, and you keep giving them a lot of weird space. In this instance, I already talked about how, like, I think the closer you get to the corner, the more your neutral and your way of going about things should be structured around regenerating drive gauge and neutral control, instead of, like, putting yourself quite close to the opponent. You probably could have DP'd that from the same side, but you got, like, a dash forwards. But yeah, that's one jump in, not anti-aired. He fucks up. He does weird shit. I think both you and the opponent in this instance hit, like, a bunch of buttons and actions that weren't going to lead to anything. Like, I don't know what any of these things were going to lead to. He drops that conversion. Crouch strong, but it's not into anything. I think that these aren't, like, the worst decisions. These aren't, like, decisions that create a very negative scenario for you, but I think that relative to other decisions that could have been made that would have yielded something beneficial if they were correct, like, instead of just doing crouch strong into light knuckle or something, or you know, whatever. So alright, he's done one EX Fireball so far. He has never stocked its engine charge. The main issue of just forward movement against Ryu is the threat of getting knocked down by an EX Fireball. Which is, you know, not the case for a lot of the other projectile characters. So, like, Ryu is, like, weird and annoying in that sense because he can dash around the screen better than some other of the, like, Guile or some of the slower characters, but he can also, if you just move forwards too much, you'll get knocked down, and then he can follow up with something. Another missed anti-air, and then another just, like, crouch strong. That one at least was, like, close enough that if it had been a counter hit, I understand, because then you would have been able to gotten that value, but you block it, and then you do, like, you wait, and then you do, like, a crouch strong after the delay. I don't disagree with that. Another missed anti-air. You block, and then you sit there and you wait for a very long time, and then he kind of walks back to the screen, etc. I think that overall nothing particularly bad happened, but I do think that you would have given a better player, like, a lot of information in those interactions, like the degree to which you waited in the instances where you were ready to accept a throw or something. And, like, both instances where you failed to anti-air the jump in, your instinct was to just sit there and block, and then you would have taken a throw, and then one time you did a delay button, the other time you just waited, etc. And I think that's, like, safe and stuff, but you don't frequently in those instances, if the opponent does, like, say, low forward drive rush into a light punch or something, you don't frequently jump back or backdash after those moments, so I think that could be incorporated more. Then, let's see, we landed a hit. I'm just kind of spacing that out, and he got clipped by that. We do one jab, and then he immediately jumps out. So it's a fourth jump this round that did not get punished, and he got the better situational advantage from it. And then this is, like, where I talk about, like, I'm sort of seeing, like, the uncertainty of, like, what the right approach is. Because, like, hanging back really far, he's kind of just doing fake fireballs or whatever. Another jump in, so fifth jump in that wasn't anti-aired, and then he kills himself off of that. But so that's what I'm looking at. Now, based on my counting of the scenarios that unfold in some of these matchups, and based on just my general observations, there's a couple of things that I noticed. Like, for instance, there, okay, so rate of throw versus shimmy versus buttons, frame traps. So, should skew more to throw, you know, if something is not happening very frequently, you have to at least, like, have the occasional, like, put some of your mental faculties into analyzing where you're getting your reward from. And if you feel like you've gotten a number of Oki situations or mix-up situations and yet you haven't gotten much reward from them, there's something wrong with this that needs to be adjusted. Something, your rate of throws, shimmies, or whatever. Because you need to feel like you don't have to win all the scenarios, but you need to at least feel like you are forcing things to happen whenever you have the opportunity to mix, right? You need to be making the opponent uncomfortable, and if you feel in some way like things are just going on autopilot when you're on offense, then at some point you need to have a way of, like, mentally checking and recognizing that, like some instance where you're like, how much damage have I gotten from meaty throw scenarios? Now, next is your rate of doing crouch medium kick versus crouch medium punch. Now, you're not reacting with crouch jab or stand jab as much to some of these whiffs as you were in previously, but again, like, crouch medium punch in some of these instances, either in neutral or in whatever, crouch medium punch will not only do more damage, has a better option into light knuckle, smaller gap, and it doesn't need to be counter hit to combo into light knuckle. More damage on any conversion, especially drive rush, but also the value of doing it on block, if it is on block, which it often is going to be. It's also the fact that this has less range, but it is 7 frames. So, you know, there's that as well. So, 1 frame faster. And the value of getting the back strong instead of the jab cannot be understated. The back strong is so much better. It puts you in such a better scenario, and it's so much more universal. You don't have to worry about spacing. It always puts you in this ideal range. It's great. So, your rate of reacting to things or instinctively responding to certain scenarios with crouch medium kick versus crouch medium punch should skew more towards crouch medium punch. All right, right now it's skewing too much towards crouch medium kick, and it needs to skew more towards this. All right, then we have, of course, anti-airs. Now, this can be a complicated thing. Some of it is tech-based, like if you throw in the corner and they jump out, doing the back roundhouse to side switch, etc. Stuff like that, practicing that, getting that in a muscle memory. Speaking of muscle memory, optimal conversions on Oki and random hits. Okay, so those, you know, put them into muscle memory so you don't have to think about them, etc. from all these different scenarios. Put the Oki scenarios into muscle memory so you know exactly what you can and can't get and you don't have to think about it. So, anti-airs, both anti-airing people jumping over you and just jumping straight at you. This is, again, like a psychological thing. Some of it is a matchup thing. Alright, back medium punch in some matchups is more or less, like, perfectly consistent and doable, and it's a better it's more valuable as an anti-air than landing DP. But in the matchups where you have to DP anti-air, because back medium punch isn't consistent against some characters' jump-ins, you have to figure out, you know, for yourself, in a meditative sense, what you need to do in order to get your mind, locked on in those instances. Like, how their jump-ins are sneaking through the gaps of your focus on that, or, like, how you can reorganize your mental stack in your brain to remove certain actions at certain times and put more of your focus in anti-airs and, like, learn to let other things go and ignore them. Alright, so whatever you need to do for that, etc. And, yeah, then, that is a lot of my opinions. There's also the, more delay on back walk into buttons. And then, what else? threatening movement into good jumps, fixing bad habits like emotional quick dive kicks. And then that's it. A lot of the other stuff is matchup based, and that all stuff is very important and things, but that's like in general what I'm looking at. Yeah, all these things, honestly you can ignore this one. Just these things will be the most important stuff to adjust right now, and then that will correct a lot of the scenarios in which things go poorly. Here's like another one. Again, like this whole sequence was so like perfect, clean cut, everything. That technically probably could have been DP'd, but whatever. No one's gonna hold that against you. Nice dive kick over that. Punish. Nice. And you did a delay. What the fuck? Fuck. You did a delay medium punch at the right time. You know, enough delay, not that it will punish you for anything. His neutral jump wasn't going to hurt you there. But you still would have had enough time to see what was happening, and you wouldn't have gotten caught probably by a delay button. Maybe you could have put a slight more delay against it, I'm not sure, but in general it looked fine. Another one, skip neutral, great, you had plenty of meters, so it was the right choice to do. Back off, but then you start walking backwards after you're like, okay, I did my frame trap, it's my time, start walking backwards, but then you walk forwards again, and with an attack that wasn't going to reach, and then that's when he jumps out. Whereas if you had walked backwards and waited for your next time to neutral skip and just harass him, you would have been able to anti-air him with like back strong. Now you could have still anti-aired him here if you had done a crosscut EXDP, but in this scenario it would have not been great to do a crosscut EXDP, because that would have put you at very low drive gauge, and you don't get Oki from it, especially not meterless Oki, so that could have put you in like a negative scenario. But you could have like at least DP anti-aired this as a crosscut. In this game, I feel that crosscuts are pretty easy, relatively speaking. I think that crosscuts are like probably easier than even normal DPs. Like just walking backwards into a DP takes a bit more time than the crosscut, which in this game is just forward, down, forward, down, and then you just hold down back. You just hold down back, and then you just hit the button whenever. It's I don't know. I think that it's one of the easier anti-air inputs to do. So just with like some basic like thinking about it and trying it a few times, I think that at least in these scenarios you can tag out some of these jump outs. But ideally we would like to position ourselves so they don't happen in the first place. It's hard for me to judge a lot of these ranked matches, because I do think that just in terms of your play is noticeably like unfocused, and your expressions are often unfocused, and you're just chatting about stuff, and obviously that's normal and that's just streaming, but like there's a lot of like, oh, got clipped by that, I don't know what you were doing there, I don't know what that was, drive rush roundhouse, and then just like -3 into like up forward at a weird spacing, and it's like roundhouse, and then you got counter hit by something, and then you just swing roundhouse after you got hit by a fireball, and then roundhouse again. Like, I'm not super sure, and then like another sudden shimmy, but like not really converted. So in these instances, I can only assume that you're like playing in a very unfocused way, and I don't know if I don't feel like I can criticize it, because it seems very obvious to me that you're not putting like 100% effort in to these particular instances, but it is noticeable, and I don't know if that's just like, a personal front, because I can tell in my own play sometimes, like when I'm trying to be playing at 100%, but I am still unfocused, you know, that's like a difficulty. That's like a challenge for me in my psychology, where I want to be focused, but I can't. I keep getting distracted. I keep playing in a suboptimal way, etc. My mind sort of grinds to a halt. And so I don't know if this is just like, yeah, I'm playing casually, whatever, not doing that much with it, or if this is like something that you, in your personal opinion, think is a psychological matter of meditation and focus that, you know, you often find yourself accidentally becoming unfocused when you don't mean to be. I don't know. That's you know, I'm not in your head, whatever, but that is something that becomes very apparent while I watch these matches, is that some of them you are clearly more focused than others. Like, this whole round, like, indicates to me something that I think is, you know, important in some circumstances. Cammy doesn't have to deal with this all the time, but, like, this is an instance where... Now, I do think this is unfocused, and I think that, like, you're pressing buttons in situations in just, like, an instinctive way and not really thinking them through a lot of the times, but... this is a scenario where I think, you know,
Bro,
plus frame, you getting hit, counter hit, and then leads to more counter hits. And I do believe that part of the fact is that I do think that Chun her buttons are just better. First of all, her buttons are just better than Cammy's. And her threat level of her buttons. That being said, there will inevitably be a point for Chun-Li where she has to spend drive gauge, and then she has to back off to recover her drive gauge, so long as you're not getting hit by everything. And I think that, but in any case, when you are fighting a character who is just in many ways and in many scenarios just better, you do have to play with a greater level of patience to overcome that situational superiority. This is like a minor, like, little kind of tech thing, but I do think that one thing you can start implementing is Crouch Fierce immediately into low forward drive rush if you have the meter. I would probably do it if you have 4.5 bars or more. But yeah, Crouch Fierce and then into immediate low forward. Pretty likely to catch a lot of people walking backwards. That's a point where there's certain points in Cammy's pressure where people are like to walk backwards, but they're also likely to do other things. After blocking Crouch Fierce, they're less likely to press a button, but they are likely to walk backwards or backdash or something. So low forward drive rush, if you can spare the drive gauge, tends to hit them a lot in that instance. Other than that, I would just say that against Manon, so long as you're not like point blank, I would consider doing a lot of wake up drive reversal when you get knocked down, because unless she's very close to you, she gets very mediocre punishes on the 6 frame, on the -6 wake up drive reversal. This is also an unverified theory, well, only a partially verified theory, but I do think when a player gets a knockdown, most cast members, even the ones that otherwise have pretty decent punishes on drive reversal on block, I do think if an opponent does a knockdown and then drive rushes to get their Oki in mid-screen, I think you can beat them with wake up drive reversal like 8 times out of 10. A lot of the cast members that have to drive rush to get Oki off of certain situations are usually not in a good position to punish the wake up drive reversal. A lot of the cast members don't get good punishes in that circumstance, and generally speaking, players are unlikely to stop doing whatever they did with their drive rush just to block it, and even if they did, the risk reward is much lower than that of doing a wake up DP and having that get blocked. So I do think in these instances, especially against someone like Manon, you see a drive rush, just fucking wake up drive reversal. I was just casually watching the DreamHack matches, and this is like a prime example of the neutral in this game is a little different than how Street Fighter V eventually developed. Where in Street Fighter V, all high level players for most characters in the game we're like an inch in front of each other almost the entire round, and anytime that they're not, they usually use some character action or dash up so that they can be back in that both within spitting distance of each other range. And this game is in some ways kind of the opposite of that, because if you're even remotely in range of the opponent's special cancelable buttons, you are like a millisecond away from getting thrown, because any button can go into drive rush and completely lock you down to a mix-up. So a lot more of the game is played from outside of that range and then attempt to skip past that range. But anyways, this is like, I like Samurai as an example of one of the things that there are some aspects to play, like high-level play, that I can articulate the exact mathematical reason, like the game works in this way and that, or psychology works in this way, and that's exactly why this makes sense, and this has a better risk-reward gamble, etc. And there's some aspects that I can only articulate in like an abstract, magical sense. So for instance, you know, like there's certain types of play, and every time I fought like a serious, like super high level pro player, and I fought like 3 of them in my lifetime, it's always like the same sort of drowning feeling, and there's like an oppressiveness to all of their actions are very simple, and you understand every individual thing they're doing, and it's all like sort of on meta and stuff, and not like any weird strategies, and I'm definitely not even close enough to their skill level for them to have to do anything outside of the basic meta in order to the basic like run the numbers type meta in order to beat me. But there is like a mathematical efficiency to what they're doing that isn't replicated by people who make similar decisions in similar situations but are not as strong. And so in some ways it's a playstyle thing, because I have fought other players who are on a similar skill level to me in terms of the people they can beat and the people that they can't beat, and where they're kind of stuck in their development as a player, versus I have played people on my skill level who still, their playstyle just feels very oppressive, and it feels like they're always just outside your reach. They're always shutting down a lot of your options. A lot of your decisions always feel like they're the wrong decision when you make them, etc. And so there are people that have that suffocating type feeling. But anyways, this is like, but one of the things that you really notice across all of Street Fighter V is that when the game first came out, like year 1, if you watch Evo for year 1 of Street Fighter V, very loose, every player, all the pro players, everyone has like a very loose interpretation of the game, and then each year you can see it getting more and more robotic until in Street Fighter V, until the last year, if you watch like the Capcom Cup matches up until like top 8, where people start like really digging deep into their soul to play to play in ways and use strategies and use techniques and make decisions that are outside the norms of what they would normally do, but their normal play of fighting each other, going through the motions, or fighting ranked is so snappy and instantaneous, and like it you look like you're you're watching a bot. They look like AIs that are playing it, because they are so used to knowing exactly what they should do in every circumstance, and that is something that you can feel while watching and while playing certain people, that becomes very identifiable. And it's not something you can put into one decision or anything, but it's just like... So anyways, I was watching this clip of Samurai, and I appreciate, like, Samurai often has, like, a very, like, cut out the middle, like, cut out the complexities, boil things down to the simple, raw, what you should be doing in a way that's very apparent. So, Samurai, like, in general, what he does is, whatever action he does it from the position that he's currently at. So if the match takes him to a current position, he takes actions with his character based on that position, or he dashes up into a further position. Every time he dashes up, he either stutter steps at that space or walks straight backwards. And then when he's at this range, he frequently does this. He stutter steps, he'll move backwards, dash forwards again outside of JP's normals range. So anytime he dashes, he does so from a distance where the forward dash will leave him right outside JP's stand fierce range, and then he'll just walk back again. Dash, walk back, etc. And maybe when he dashes, he walks back to this distance. Maybe when he dashes, he walks back but then kind of stays here. Or maybe when he dashes, he walks back for like an instant and then jumps forwards. And that's like a lot of his entire gameplay. Like, it's very, when you actually like look at his frequencies, it's very simpler. Enter right outside his footsies range, walk back, do an action, walk backwards, he's closing in, jump, stay at the position. He doesn't move until he has the opportunity to do so. He just stays at that position, and then at a certain decisive moment, after walking backwards or just moving backwards, he takes into this position, walk backwards, same thing. He just does the same thing over and over. He just moves, whatever, waits it out, then maybe he'll dash up into this range, take an action that works at the range he's currently at, doesn't move into a different range. That was a weird decision there, inconsistent with, he doesn't do that a lot, but guaranteed meaty, jump back. This game, jump back is, I think more players should look at jump back as an option in kind of the close range footsies interactions than they currently are, because a lot of characters, their backdashes are pretty weak. Backdash doesn't have any invincibility, it doesn't pull your hurt box back very far, and there's lots of instances where backdash can get you clipped by the opponent just pressing their low forward anyways. And I think that just holding up back is underused by player. Obviously, you don't want to use it all the time because it's giving up a lot of space, and it feels like a clumsy solution to being too close to the opponent. But there are a lot of instances where it makes the most logical sense to reduce the potential threat of being uncertain what your opponent's going to do and when they're going to press their button in the range that they're at. And it has the least likelihood of you being clipped by something in a way that will get you seriously hurt. That wasn't even the optimal confirm. He did this, so he did jump back, and then he did that. He saw his opening, did this. Now, off of drive rush plus punish counter, he would have been plus a billion, and he could have done stand fierce here into drive rush and gotten the kill without spending any super. He did not do that. And that was just reactions. Okay, so back to neutral. He's just going to sit, take an action directly from the position he's at. And then in these close range situations, what's he going to do? While he's still in the normals range, he's not going to walk backward. All those dashes were outside of JP's footsies range, and then he would walk backwards freely. When he's in this range, he's going to do slightly different options. He's going to do 2 jabs and then wait, and just sit there waiting, because it's dangerous to do anything else if you guess incorrectly. Like, if you made the wrong decision and you do, and his jab is what, like -1? If he did that into like a low forward or something, or a stand medium kick or something, that wasn't going to work. He risks JP doing crouch strong drive rush, and he has plenty of drive rush, so it wouldn't be risky for Stealth to try that. And he would be in a situation where he would lose a lot of health from guessing wrong. It's much safer for him to just chew jabs and not try to move, not try to press more buttons, just sit there and block. So what's he's going to do in these situations where there's not a good way to back off or go in? He's going to sit here and block, whatever. He's still plus here. Again, he just does crouch jab, he's sitting there and block. He hasn't done many things in those situations other than just do something. That's the extent of what he can safely do on block, and then just sit there crouch blocking. But yeah, perfect parry is another thing that he's going to want to do. And then he's, you know, a lot of these mix-up situations he's going to do reactively, so if he's looking for a shimmy, he's going to wait until he sees the throw tech in order to press the button. He's not going to press it preemptively. While he's still in range of JP's likely and dangerous buttons, he's going to press Stand Fierce or Crouch Strong.
On that shoulder, he can actually be +1 there. That was one of the new buffs that he got. More active frames on that shoulder.
Etc. Now he's outside of Footsie's range, taking action in that regards.
Yeah,
That's the only instance so far that he's tried a little stutter step into a wish punish. He risked actually a lot that he got lucky that that wasn't canceled into drive rush. That is also no longer the optimal confirm with the new patch. Stand Fierce has less since they increased the damage scaling on Crouch Fierce. Stand Fierce, which is now possible there, would have been better.
But not looking so good right now. Light knuckle.
Oh no, I think that was an execution error right there by Samurai.
Again, he does something. There's not a safe way to move backwards necessarily. That so he doesn't press a button. He just crouch blocks, waits. It depends on the character. Like, what's the likelihood that after he does after Luke does like a forward heavy punch on block, which is -3, or like 2 crouch jabs on block, which is -1? What is the actual likelihood that a JP player is going to, after blocking those actions, walk forwards and throw him? Like, that behavior from that character, low likelihood. So he's going to sit there and wait for more blocks done that'll push him back to safety. A lot of the time. And then out here, same thing, walk backwards and wait this out. Forward dash, move back. Scramble, and his response to the scramble was little stutter step into wish punish. Worked out this time. Little shimmy.
And burnout as well. Burnout is still a dangerous thing against JP.
In my opinion, I think that burnout is always very bad to do against JP if he has level 2. And in my opinion, JPs should always take gamble, like be willing to take gambles to try to exploit burnout with their level 2 if they have access to it.
You have to. I tried to teleport in. Samurai weathered the storm. Took a little bit of chip. He knows someone's it. He knows that he's got that level 3.
But then again, in my opinion, JP's underused level 2, and I think they should use it like every round in all sorts of situations.
He just needs one solid hit. OD fireball. No follow-up though. Samurai has safe, annoying style.
And for the rest of this round, Samurai's just going to do nothing because he likes timeouts. But anyways, he's going to take an action. Got checked in the drive rush that time, but yeah, he's just going to sit there, move into range. That time he did a little walk back and then forward jump. Action, immediate action. His movement around the screen is not that loose. Like, even though he's at different parts of the screen, he winds up at different parts of the screen because of any... So his movement is mostly predicated to little actions, straight walking backwards, or seeing an opportunity to safely cover distance with a forward dash and then stutter step or walk backwards. He doesn't forward dash into walking forwards. He doesn't freely walk around a great deal of space. There's like a very particular way in which he moves. See, that one, probably a mistake on his end, because that time he forward dashed. Maybe it was just to check something. Maybe he wouldn't consider it a mistake. I don't know. I can't ask him. But he forward dashed into JP's Footsie's range, so then he just waited. Fish for a random parry. He saw that there was a slight delay, a little walk backwards from JP, so he decided to fish for a perfect parry. Forward dash, walk backwards. It's the same thing. He did a forward jump there to occupy forward space. There's a couple things that could have beaten or that wouldn't have lost to that a forward dash would have lost to. In some ways this is risky because at that range, if Stealth had been walking forwards, he could have anti-aired that with a forward heavy kick. He probably did that to occupy like a slightly greater amount of space than forward dash would have, but it ended up slightly backfiring, not in a very consequential way, where he wound up again within Stand Fierce range.
Oh god, don't talk to me about that one. Okay.
Forward dash, walk backwards, or forward dash, wait.
Oh god, don't
Forward dash,
talk to
wait,
me about
walk
that
backwards, jump.
one. My trip to here to Dallas.
Very, very clear how he's moving and how his movement and the actions that he takes from the movement that he's doing results in. He's done like basically like 4 movement types. Forward dash, walk backwards, do little walk forwards, walk backwards in a certain position. Forward jump, or a tiny little walk back into low forward. Those are like the only movements that he's done this whole match.
Keep the pressure off in the corner. Stealth has been found, and Samurai is looking up the corner more often than not. You see him also delay the jab. Looking for the reversal. Drive brush. Command grip. What is this, week 1? What are you doing? That's my tactic right there. Don't take this.
So he's just going to sit here and then wait to make a decision to either walk backwards when he feels he's losing the space to JP's space controlling and space gaining zoning tools like departure, and he's going to look for an opportunity to forward dash and occupy some space. Or throw another fireball or EX fireball.
Trying to get that tap parry.
Oh, what a
Stealth.
yeah! There was the bait out of the tap parry from Samurai that time.
Yeah.
And now here's the throw. Nope, not drive rush it. Gonna stay patient. There's the drive rush.
Okay, combo. Drive rush backs up. Oh, he could have went punch. But
See, and like once he engages, that's the thing about this game is that like it is so risky. When you're plus, you can just do a frame trap and whatever in your opponent's face, but when you do something that's not plus, as in like if you do like a light into a medium, there's always like a 6-frame gap or so. And because the lights are almost always minus and the mediums are like 6 frames or slower most of the time. So there's almost always a huge gap that every character in the game can exploit. So if you're doing anything that's minus in any way while pressuring the opponent, or leave any gaps in your pressure, or like do something into walk up, there's an inherent danger in this game, especially because so many characters, their default response on defense is to just hit a medium button, a relatively fast medium button into drive rush. And so if JP, his defensive action is crouch strong drive rush, and you are walking around and you like do like crouch medium punch your +1 on block with Luke, and then you like walk forwards at the wrong time, and that's when he decides to do crouch strong drive rush, that defensive impulse that he did with the timing of that button will now result in you losing like 1/5 of your life bar with or half your life bar if they spend level 3, etc. So he never pressures in that way. He never pressures by like being plus and then walking forwards. Any movement he does is always just walking backwards or jumping backwards outside of the range of those buttons like crouch strong drive rush. And then when he engages, he doesn't dash forwards into that range to throw. He doesn't walk forwards into that range in almost any circumstances. He drive rushes from back here, where there's less of a likelihood of the opponent instinctively hitting a footsies button. So he drive rushes not from here, but from here, or he dashes up to here, and then he looks for a reaction or something, and then if there's more passivity generated, he would start to transition to dashing into like a low forward drive rush on block or on hit or something. But when he pressures or when he gives up pressure or anything, there's no fucking risks at all taken on like doing a delay button from here or like waiting and then walking forwards and throwing. Always safely removes himself from the range of crouch strong drive rush before playing the game again.
oh, he could have went punch. But we'll still find the jump in.
How much damage? As you can see right here. I
That
mean,
has to
look
be
at
said,
that
because
nerf.
Up with the dive.
Look at that nerf
This nerf
damage,
character.
dude.
Bashar,
Man.
where you at, bro?
That was like the riskiest thing he's ever done so far, is that tiny little stutter step while he was still in range of Stand Fierce.
Look at that nerf
This nerf
damage,
character.
dude.
Bashar,
Man.
where you at, bro? Because this character's still looking stronger than me. Samurai looking for one more solid interaction into level 3 for the victory. Can you find, he can lay it out.
He's obviously not going to do anything until he gets bar back, if he's not forced to, and Stealth is not forcing him to.
JP would have died had he not been nerfed, but still pretty decent damage.
Dash up.
Died had
He saw an opportunity where it was mostly safe to dash up, so he occupied the space just to fight the overall screen battle a little bit and threaten an approach, and then just goes to the same, beating the zoning by moving out of the range of the space that JP controls, dash up to threaten that space to make it harder for Stealth to just completely win the corner push game all the time. And then he takes an action at one point. And again, drive rushes from a range where it's less likely for him to... He can still hit with some of his faster drive rush buttons, but he's not likely to think that he needs to stop like a forward dash or a footsies button.
Departure is out. Zonely styles. How you have to play with JP. The trade. Stampier's heavy kick. Push back a lot more.
Here we go.
Level 2.
What's he got here? Oh, he got caught. Here we go, but no, didn't get anything after that. Stand every punch still.
Chose the wrong defensive option.
And again, I mean, this is...
Alright, just hanging out of this space. There's no zoning already implemented. He's probably threatening to react to some fireball or some portal put up. He's spacing himself in a range where if Stealth does try to put out a departure portal, he could react to it with like a drive rush. I'm not sure what he would choose to react to it with. He might be sitting in this range and moving back and forth because he's pumping and buffering level 3 to react through something, or a level 1. And then just jump. And the way that he plays, he threatens options that make it awkward for Stealth, because in Stealth's mind, we have to think of like... The psychology of fighting games is funny, because when people talk about like reading their opponents, I find that to be not a really like complete way, because there's types of reads where you read your opponent, like you get a tell on what their current behavior is. You can tell if they're panicking, you can tell if they're irritated, etc. There are certain tells where you can get the emotional state of the opponent. There are certain logical patterns that you can deduce, like you have a logical idea of what they're going to do. There's some just vibe senses where you just have a general sense of what the opponent's going to do that you couldn't really explain with math or logic. And then there's one of the much more significant things, which is it's not that you know what your opponent is thinking of what you're going or what they're going to do, but just your playstyle is functionally useful in that it is good at destroying the opponent's mind. So you don't have to know that your opponent's mind is fracturing in order for your playstyle to take advantage of the fact that it is hurting your opponent's mental stack. And that's kind of what the sense that I get from some of this, where it's like, I don't think that Samurai instinctively knows that Stealth is not looking for the anti-air, but I think that his playstyle is just one that naturally benefits that, because one, it's not that risky, because if he jumps at these ranges, JP has a good anti-air, not as good now, but it's not an anti-air that he gets Oki from. It's just one crouch fierce, and then it's back to neutral. So, very low risk option to jump at him at this particular range in these situations. And also, the way he plays is that Stealth has to be worried about when he's going to give up space and like move outside of the range of his zoning and then harass him with fireballs. He has to be worried about drive rush from the range that he's doing it. And he's thinking about whether or not he can put out his zoning tools and what approach option he's going to do without Samurai reacting to it or something. And we can't tell exactly what's going through his mind, but for whatever reason, his mental stack is occupied by this playstyle in such a way that he's not reacting to these jumps that are consistently happening from the same range.
Almost have an argument to say every character in this game is fairly cheap at this point.
Oh yeah, I hate them all. That's how you know the game's good.
That is the mark.
Alright, just guessing.
Best fighting games is
Alright, that was the first time that he changed it up, where he actually did do a delay button. The first time that he changed up his his approach on pressure.
Fighting game.
And I think he should kill off of this. Yeah, so that's it. There we go. This is like my step-by-step process for because I think these ways of trapping the opponent are very, very, very situational and psychological. Like, it's not that you're ready to whiff punish like every single random stray thing or whatever that is technically reactable, but that I think a lot of this and how players do this is that they just create very repetitive scenarios where there's a single moment that impulses the opponent that has like a certain % chance likelihood of them responding with an action that falls within some small set of common actions taken. So after, okay, for instance, if the opponent's just blocking, if you do like that into that, if you do like whatever, plus on block, dive kick, into something and then just walk backwards, there is a certain behavioral chance that the opponent is either going to mash a medium button after they block the light, or they're going to do a delay medium button, medium punch, or medium kick. And then for each character you have to look at what are their actual defensive like behavioral tendencies. For Luke, when he's blocking, if he's not within crouch jab range, he's either going to do like jump back or fish for perfect parry, maybe jump forwards, or do an immediate or delayed crouch strong drive rush, crouch strong heavy knuckle, crouch strong fireball, or low forward drive rush, etc. So like the most common actions you're going to see from him if you create these scenarios are crouch strong and crouch medium kick. So you only really need to be able to beat those specific actions. So then you create a scenario where you can look for those specific actions on a random basis, and then train yourself. So the first thing I do when I do this to train very specific whiff punishes is first I just look at the animation over and over. I trigger it and then burn the entire image into my head. I do this like 50 times over, just over and over. I look at the image, I look at each part of the image. Like first I'm gonna look at his fist. How does his fist look during this animation? How does his overall silhouette look? What is the most discernible, distinctive quality? I make sure that my memory is like completely absorbed in the whole silhouette and the motion and the speed and the snappiness of it. Every single element that will stick in my memory, I focus on it and absorb it into my memory so that my reaction against this particular move will be as fast as possible. So I look at it, so his fist, the lettering on his fist is very visible during it. You can see his arm, his fist stays within one proximity. That's what I'm looking at. I look at the way his feet are positioned. His feet slightly twist, but not to a great degree. His back foot, the heel lightly comes off the ground, etc. I look at his knees slightly bend in a twisting motion. His hair becomes, his face twists away from the screen in a way in which his hair becomes like a distinct blob that's covering his whole thing. His hood becomes more visible as it twists and flops into view, etc. That's not going to happen for every costume that Luke could have. His shoulder kind of sort of melts into his body and is not as prominent. I have to like look at that next to his normal crouching animation, his crouch blocking animation. So I have to see, especially for crouching moves and such, you have to be able to notice the difference between just normal crouching and the actual attack itself. So if I look at his hair, there's like a slight difference during the animation where his face disappears and his hair gets slightly rounder and bigger as it occupies that whole visual space. There's of course the twisting motion. The forearm and the fist takes up like an immediate part, so I'm just absorbing all of this data, and some moves, some animations are better than others, and like they give you something clear for you to look at that is a tell, so you can react as fast as possible. So then I look at that so that I can identify this fucking move, and then I practice. Like so. And some moves are going to be easier than others. But that's how I envision this process. And then, like, you break the game down into a number of extremely specific psychological, like, tells and looks like that. So let's switch from this to, like, an easier character to do this against with an more easily whiff punishable button. I don't know if this is a more easily whiff punishable button, but I'm gonna just test this as an example. So I'll study the animation first. The bars are kind of covering because she goes so low to the ground. Let's see, her feet kind of drastically change positions instantly, so like her back foot suddenly becomes where her front foot is in a way that's a little bit hard to like visually see. Her leg kind of immediately appears in a straight line forwards, and then twists. Her hair bun, like her face, kind of instantaneously gets much lower and faces away from the screen, and her hair buns stick out left and right, kind of in the same fashion. Her arms are totally down on the ground; you can't see them at all. She just gets very low to the ground. I think that lowness to the overall silhouette would be like your best shot at reacting to this, because I don't think she has other animations that you would have to worry about in the same way, where she gets that, her entire body smushes that low. Much easier to whiff punish than Luke's Crouch Strong.